On today's show, I'm going to be talking about failure. Yes, failure used to be my biggest fear. I'm going to be stick around because I'm going to talk about 4 ways that failure can actually be a good thing. Welcome to the Results Kill Excuses channel. I'm your host, Greg. I've been getting on here talking about how you can change your life by improving your life, by taking that extreme ownership and allowing yourself to do just this, is to fail. Admit it. How many of us are afraid to fail? Are you afraid to fail? Comment down below, when was the last time you failed and you felt like a failure? I can tell you, when I crashed and burned in 2012, hitting rock bottom, man, oh man, I felt like a complete failure, a failure in life. I feel like I had failed my family. I'd failed as a man. I'd failed as a husband, failed as a father, a son, so on and so forth. And yet, prior to that, in 2008, 2009, for those of you that need a history lesson, we had this economic collapse back then. And I was living in Southern California at the time, and I had a small promotional products company out of San Clemente, California, and I was rocking. I was actually living my best life back then. I felt like I was unstoppable. My business was expanding and growing, and popularity was really going through the roof. I was making a tremendous amount of money in my 20s, and lo and behold, the economy fell off the cliff. And when it did, I felt like I was on the edge. And even though it didn't like wipe me out to where it was sudden, it was like this very stretched out, long, painful process of losing things, of having to close the business drying up, closing the business, liquidating, trying to sell the business, but having to close it, getting foreclosed on homes, and literally having to pack up a family, which consisted of myself, my wife at the time, our 2-year-old daughter, a 3-month-old son, and 2 dogs, and it was very humiliating. Probably the silver lining in it was that I wasn't alone. Literally just getting a U-Haul back then took, like, several weeks to reserve it, and once we actually got loaded up and on the road back here to my home state of New Mexico, it was literally just bumper to bumper to bumper traffic of an exodus of people leaving Southern California, headed for a new life and a restart. And that failure really hit me hard. And I know it really started to kick in a lot of depression. I know that in '09, I'd gotten my second DWI, and I got sober, but I did so with a lot of anger. I was really resentful because of how the circumstances of it happened. But I can tell you, as I sit here right now, I am a fully healed, transformed man that knows how to fail and fail a lot and fail often, but fail forward. And it wasn't always that way. I think there's a Denzel Washington piece that's talking about failing often, failing forward. And it's true, but it's so hard to actually embrace that. Because if you had asked me 10 years ago, 12 years ago, what was my biggest fear? And this could have actually have even have been 5 years ago, regardless. My biggest fear for many years was not public speaking. So many people are afraid of that. It was the fear of failure. Yes. Can you relate? that fear of failure, because I had felt the stung. I had felt the sting, and it stung. The sting of failure stung so bad, it hurt. And thus I created some resistance, some trauma to it. And I was afraid to fail again. I was afraid to do things that for a lot of years after that fall, I started playing small. I changed up my whole persona. I went from being Mr. Entrepreneur, right? Exiting the military, starting a business, growing that business, providing for myself, my family, being very successful, and kind of always having that ambition, to where that hit went so deep inside of me. And if you remember this and you can relate to it, man, comment down below, be seen, be heard. I mean, that was a difficult time. 08, 09. Yeah, that was extremely upheaving. It was an upheaval in my life. And I know I wasn't alone. The Big Short talks about what happened. I was invested in real estate and just all kinds of stuff. But I'm just thinking here and saying, man, it just hurt. It hurt to come up short because I was so full of ambition. I thought that I was going to be able to provide something for my then wife and children that I could have never imagined. I grew up in a small town and I was living in coastal beach cities in Southern California, living like this dream life, being my own boss and making tons of money and buying investment properties. And then poof, man, it just fucking went up in smoke. And it wasn't because I was getting too drunk, getting too high, wasn't willing to work. Man, I would do whatever it took to serve my customers. But business just dried up. And it left me with a really hard choice to live by a motto that's called go big or go home. Well, I'll let you figure out what I did. I'm home. I went big and then I had to go home. I hope you can feel my pain and the sarcasm, because it's been a lot of years since that happened and I've grown and transformed. And I recently commemorated my 12 years of sobriety, and I'm really proud of myself. And one of the things that I've been doing is reflecting on the 12 years. I did some reflecting before, but now that it's past, it's really like sinking in. And I want to make a conscientious effort to share with you as many of the lessons. I'm trying to say 12 lessons, but right now I have a list of 20. And yet I think it sounds novel to do it 12 lessons, but I just want to share with the audience as many lessons one at a time that I feel are the nuggets, the gold, the things that I still carry with me to this day and I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. And the one that came up today, as I was talking to my therapist, sharing with her the list, it really hit her and it's really truth is, the road to success is paved in failures. There's not one successful person on this planet that hasn't failed many, 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 many times. And yet, kind of the average person out there can often perceive success so much different. When we see people hit their success, we think they're just so lucky, and we don't realize all of the things and the dark nights and the struggles and the challenges that they had to go through to get there. And I'm experiencing that right now, as the comeback is going to be great. The most greatest experience of my life. And yet, I really, really, really had to embrace what it meant to fail. And I want to share with you four takeaways, four ways to spin failure into a positive outlook. The first is that when you fail, it's an opportunity for you to learn. And the thing about failing is that usually you fail at something you haven't experienced before. Usually it happens when you're ill prepared or you're maybe new or a novice at something. Failures can happen oftentimes when we're trying something new. It's not successful right away. There's a development phase. There's a time that we have to learn new things. And when you fail, it really does give you a moment to pause, to reflect, and to learn what went wrong. And if you're lacking self-confidence and you take that leap of faith for the first time in a long time and you kind of fall flat on your face, that can be enough to knock you back out and not keep going. And I think you gotta have a deeper why if you do find yourself willing to try something new or re-engage in something that you know is just a burning desire in your heart. Because the real mantra is don't ever quit, no matter how much you fail. And I do believe in the, definition of insanity, but it's one of those things that if you're getting little bits of progress every day, every week, every month, and every year, then that's worth it. Have you ever seen the meme with the two people digging for the gold underground, and it's like, the one guy finishes just like an inch short of hitting the mother lode. He just got frustrated, tired, fed up, when all he had to do is just go a little bit further. And it's something I experience to this day, is this desire to give up. Sometimes it pops up. It pops up. The farther you go, you're like, there's days I just wake up, I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I still doing this? And then something will happen and it triggers that acknowledgement to be like, oh yeah, that's why I'm doing that. Maybe it's just you putting a comment saying, hey man, this message really helped me today. Those little hits go so far, farther than most people think. And so even this message, I hope that it reaches you today in a time when you need confirmation. Don't quit, even if you feel like you're failing. If it's in you, like, something's going to come up that'll give you that confirmation. So one of the first positive things that you can take away from failure is the opportunity to learn. Another thing that I took away from my many times of failure is how to be resilient. Y'all know what resilient means, right? It's like resilient is the epitome, like the totality of getting knocked down and getting back up, right? It takes resilience to get knocked down and to get up, dust yourself off, and keep moving in a positive direction. Not give up, get up. That's the difference. Resilience is the difference between giving up and getting up when you're knocked down, when you feel like you've failed. And it's tough. It feels really tough. I have failed privately, as have all of us, but I've also failed publicly, where my whole reputation, my whole life was smeared publicly when I was running for city council. And that was a tough one. And everybody wanted me to fail and give up. And I said, I'm not going to give up. The chances of me winning based on what's happened to me and how everything's being framed and the timing, I was like, I know my chances of winning are none, but I'm not going to quit. I will keep going. I will show up for the debates and whatever else comes my way, but I'm not going to quit. And so I encourage you, if you feel like quitting, don't quit. Try and get through one more night. Try and get through one more day. Try and find some sort of positivity in what you're doing and make it worthwhile. Listen to some affirmations. Reach out to me. Right? I'm available for a limited number of people for coaching, life coaching, transformational coaching, right? Getting sober, accomplishing big goals. Sometimes we just need somebody in our corner. So feel free to reach out if that's something that you would like to look further into. But I really do believe that the times that you don't give up and you stay resilient, it really builds character. It really starts to build a different frame of mind that you can actually overcome difficult situations, stressful situations, and that's noteworthy in and of itself. Next up, I really believe that in failure, we have an opportunity to be more creative, right? Not only can we learn from the things we got wrong, and we can also be more by being resilient, but it gives us an opportunity to be creative, to look at things outside the box from a different perspective. And I think that's also a very powerful aspect of failure, because sometimes we don't really believe in our creativity. But recently I was challenged to walk around with a notebook. And usually I have like big ass journals, but I bought these small notepads. And I'm just, anytime things pop up, I had an idea just pop up a few minutes ago, and I wanted to write down that idea. And you never know when these moments of inspiration will come, but certainly after failure, if you're not ready to throw in the towel and give up, you're willing to get up and keep going, you're going to see some ideas pop in to your mind. They're going to come up, and you should never disregard any ideas. Just write it down. Write it down, track it. You never know what that idea could lead to. And so I really encourage you to allow creativity to be present. And then finally, I think that failure can also help us to become more determined. Resilient is getting up versus giving up, but determined means that if you can just take a step back once you've gone back up, you can really say, you know what? That didn't take me out. That didn't do what I thought it would do. It didn't knock me out. I'm not giving up. I'm going to double down. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to be unstoppable. I'm not going to quit. And you get more determined. You get more focused. You become more unstoppable. Every time that something happens, an obstacle presents itself, and you go over it, around it, under it, or right fucking through it. You go right through that thing. And so again, failure used to be one of the things that I feared the most. But as I sit here now with 12 years of sobriety under my belt and a complete life transformation having taken place, I can now look at failures that happen, big and small, and I dust myself off. I learn from it. I find ways to be more creative, and I stay determined, especially if it's something I'm driven towards. Failure is truly the road to your success. It's the road to my success. It's been the road to every single person's success. And I want you to truly grab a hold of that. And I'm going to look in my trusty journal here. I wrote in here that failure is a key part of the success process. It truly is. It don't feel good. It does not feel good. But on the other side of failure, if you do not give up and you keep going, you will reach your success. Everybody says it. Successful people, I listen to affirmations all the time. It's ingrained in there that you only fail if you quit. So whatever you do, no quitting. That's one of my key takeaways from 12 years of sobriety. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Check in here, subscribe, share the message if it's resonating with you. I really do value and appreciate all the new subscribers to the Results Kill Excuses channel. If you haven't yet, check out the website, check out the app. There's some incredible merchandise and some coursework for you to do some more deeper diving into your personal development journey. I love you guys. You know the drill. Results kill excuses. Transform your sick and tired into optimal and unstoppable. Greg's out.